Imagine standing in a forest at twilight. The air is cool and still, carrying the scent of earth and leaves. Above you, branches sway gently, their movements almost imperceptible in the fading light. Below your feet, invisible and silent, something extraordinary is happening. Beneath the soil, through networks you cannot see, the trees are talking. They are sharing resources, sending warnings, making decisions. They are remembering the past and preparing for tomorrow. Without a single neuron, without a brain, they possess a form of intelligence that scientists are only beginning to understand. Welcome to Bedtime Biology, where science meets serenity. Each night, we explore the quiet wonders of the natural world, calming your mind and sparking your curiosity. If you like these videos, please consider subscribing to the channel and commenting below if you have any feedback or suggestions for topics of future episodes. Tonight, we journey into the hidden world of tree intelligence. We will discover how forests communicate through fungal networks that span acres of woodland, how trees remember droughts that happened decades ago, and how they share water with strangers during times of desperate need. This is not metaphor or poetry. This is science revealing something profound, something that changes how we see the forest itself. The trees around us are not passive observers of their world. They are active participants, sensing, responding, adapting, and in their own way, thinking. The story begins underground, in the dark soil, where roots intertwine with something ancient and essential. In the late 1990s, a forest ecologist named Suzanne Simard was conducting experiments in the forests of British Columbia. She had grown up in Canadian forests, where her family worked as foresters for generations, and she knew from childhood that the forest was anything but silent or disconnected. She had seen how trees of different species seemed to thrive together, how clear-cuts left behind wounded ecosystems that struggled to recover. Traditional forestry treated trees as individuals competing for resources, but Simard suspected something else was at work. Her experiments would change how scientists understand forests forever. Simard injected isotopes of carbon into the needles of Douglas fir trees and traced where those carbon atoms traveled. What she discovered was remarkable. The carbon didn't just stay in the tree that produced it. It moved through the soil, traveling along thread-like filaments of fungi, and appeared in neighboring trees, sometimes of completely different species. Paper birch trees received carbon from Douglas firs. Young seedlings growing in deep shade received nutrients from mature trees standing in full sunlight. The forest, it turned out, was not a collection of individuals competing for survival. It was a network. The fungal threads Simard traced are called mycorrhizae, a word that combines the Greek words for fungus and root. These fungi form partnerships with tree roots that date back hundreds of millions of years to when plants first colonized land. The relationship is elegantly simple. Trees produce sugars through photosynthesis, converting sunlight into chemical energy. Fungi cannot photosynthesize. They live in darkness, spreading through soil in networks of microscopic threads called hyphae. The trees share their sugars with the fungi, and in return, the fungi gather water and mineral nutrients like phosphorus and nitrogen from the soil, delivering them to the tree roots. Both partners benefit. The trees gain access to nutrients they could not reach on their own. The fungi receive the energy they need to survive. But the network does more than exchange nutrients. It connects hundreds of trees across the forest floor, linking individuals of the same species and bridging different species together. These connections form what scientists now call common mycorrhizal networks. The fungi weave between root tips, creating pathways through which water, nutrients, and chemical signals can flow. A single network can span tens of meters, potentially connecting hundreds of trees. Some fungal organisms cover hundreds of hectares and live for centuries, far outlasting any individual tree. Through these networks, trees can share resources with neighbors. An older tree with deep roots, drawing water from moist soil, can send that water through fungal threads to a younger tree struggling in dry surface layers. A tree standing in a sunny gap can transfer carbon to a seedling growing in its shade, a seedling that may even be its own offspring. Scientists have measured this transfer directly. In one study, researchers found that mature sugar maple trees engaged in hydraulic lift, pulling water up from deep soil layers at night and releasing it from shallow roots into the upper soil, where neighboring plants could access it. Other studies showed that up to 22% of a tree's daily water budget could be redistributed through its root system. The network shows patterns of favoritism that hint at something more than simple resource sharing. Trees can recognize their relatives. Studies have shown that Douglas fir trees, connected by mycorrhizal networks, transfer more carbon to their kin than to unrelated seedlings. This recognition may occur through chemical signatures in root exudates, though the exact mechanism remains unknown. The result is clear. Trees invest more resources in their genetic relatives, increasing the survival chances of their own lineage. It's a form of kin selection, a strategy that maximizes the spread of a tree's genes through future generations. But the network benefits more than just family members. Even unrelated trees and different species cooperate through these fungal pathways. The fungi themselves may drive this cooperation. The fungal network survives by keeping trees alive and healthy. A diverse network of hosts provides the fungi with more stable sources of carbon across different seasons and conditions. If one species struggles during drought, another may thrive, ensuring the fungus receives a steady supply of sugars. The fungi take about 30% of the sugar trees produced through photosynthesis as payment for their services. It is an economic exchange, a market operating beneath our feet, where carbon is currency and survival is the ultimate commodity. Within this network, certain trees play outsized roles. Simard identified these as hub trees or mother trees, the oldest and largest individuals in the forest. These trees have the most extensive root systems and the greatest number of fungal connections. They act as hubs in the network, central nodes through which resources and information flow. When a mother tree detects distress signals from younger trees, it can increase the flow of nutrients to those individuals. When a mother tree is injured or dying, it accelerates resource transfer to the surrounding forest, passing on its accumulated reserves to the next generation. It's a biological legacy, a final gift from an elder to its descendants. The discovery of these networks sparked intense debate in the scientific community. Some researchers cautioned against anthropomorphizing trees, warning that terms like cooperation and communication could mislead. Others questioned whether the resource transfers truly benefited both parties, or whether the networks sometimes acted parasitically. These are valid concerns. Science requires skepticism and rigorous testing, yet the evidence continues to accumulate. Forests with intact mycorrhizal networks show greater resilience to stress. Clear-cut logging that destroys these underground connections slows forest recovery. The networks matter, not as poetic metaphor, but as measurable ecological function. Standing in the forest now, knowing what lies beneath, changes the experience. The quiet between the trees takes on new meaning. Information flows in channels we cannot perceive. Decisions are made through chemical gradients and electrical signals. The forest is alive in ways that transcend individual organisms. It thinks, in a sense, through the collective intelligence of its networks. But fungi are not the only medium of communication. Trees also talk through the air. Walk into a pine forest on a warm day and breathe deeply. The scent that fills your lungs is more than pleasant. It is language. Those aromatic compounds drifting through the air are messages, warnings, chemical sentences that other trees can read and respond to. These airborne molecules are called phytoncides, a term coined in 1928 by Russian biochemist Boris Tolkien. The word comes from Greek and Latin roots, meaning exterminated by the plant. Phytoncides are volatile organic compounds that plants release to protect themselves from bacteria, fungi, and insects. Each tree species produces its own cocktail of chemicals. Pine trees release alpha-pinene and beta-pinene, terpenes, that give them their distinctive sharp, resinous scent. These compounds kill or inhibit bacteria and fungi that might infect the tree. They also repel certain insects. The tree surrounds itself with an invisible chemical shield, but these compounds do more than protect the tree that produces them. When a tree is under attack by insects, it can change the composition and quantity of volatiles it releases. Neighboring trees detect these changes through receptors in their leaves and bark. Upon receiving the warning, they respond by producing their own defensive compounds before the insects reach them. It's an early warning system, a form of collective defense that gives the entire forest time to prepare. Scientists have documented this phenomenon in multiple tree species. When pines are infested with budworms, they produce defense compounds and send warning signals to nearby pines, which then increase their own defensive chemistry. The warned trees do not wait passively for attack. They preemptively fortify themselves, producing tannins and other compounds that make their leaves less palatable or more toxic to herbivores. This preemptive defense can significantly reduce damage from insect outbreaks. The signals travel both through the air and through the soil. Mycorrhizal networks can transmit chemical warnings from tree to tree. When one plant is attacked by aphids, it releases compounds that trigger defensive responses in connected neighbors. These responses happen even in plants that have not yet been touched by the insects. The network acts as a distributed nervous system, allowing the forest to respond to threats as a coordinated whole rather than as isolated individuals. The chemical complexity of these signals is astonishing. More than 5,000 different volatile substances have been identified in plants. Each compound carries information. Some signal drought stress. Others indicate pathogen infection or herbivore attack. The concentration, combination, and timing of these signals convey specific messages. Trees can distinguish between different threats and tailor their responses accordingly. This is not random chemical noise. It is structured communication with syntax and meaning. Humans, too, can sense these messages, though we interpret them differently. When we walk through a forest and feel our stress diminish, When our immune systems strengthen after time spent among trees, we are responding to phytoncides. Research has shown that exposure to these compounds increases the activity of natural killer cells in our blood, immune cells that fight cancer and infection. Phytoncides lower cortisol levels, reducing stress. They improve mood and promote sleep. In Japan, this practice of spending time in forests for health benefits is called Shinrin-yoku, or forest bathing. The forest shares its chemical language with us, and our bodies understand. The release of phytoncides follows daily patterns. During daylight hours, when photosynthesis is active and temperatures are higher, trees release more volatiles. The compounds vaporize more readily in warmth. At night, when transpiration slows and temperatures drop, emission rates decline. This diurnal rhythm means that the forest's chemical communication is strongest during the day, when both threats and opportunities are most active. The forest times its messages to when they matter most. These chemical conversations happen on timescales far slower than human speech. A warning signal might take minutes or hours to spread through a forest canopy, much slower than the electrical signals in our brains. But for trees, time operates differently. They live for decades or centuries. Their communication occurs on scales that match their lifespans. What seems slow to us is efficient and appropriate for them. The air in a forest, then, is not empty space between trees. It is filled with information, a chemical telegraph, carrying news of threats and conditions across the woodland. Trees talk through scent and volatility, through molecules that drift on the breeze and settle on leaves. It is a language without words, but it is language nonetheless. Yet trees possess an even more fundamental form of intelligence, one written into their very cells. Every tree has an internal clock. Like humans and other animals, trees maintain circadian rhythms, biological patterns that oscillate on roughly 24-hour cycles. These rhythms coordinate nearly every aspect of a tree's physiology. Genes turn on and off according to precise schedules. Photosynthesis ramps up in anticipation of dawn. Stomata in the leaves open and close in daily patterns. Growth occurs at specific times. The tree does not merely react to light and dark. It anticipates them. It prepares. At the molecular level, circadian rhythms in plants involve intricate feedback loops of gene expression. In the model plant Arabidopsis, morning genes like CCA1 and LHY activate at dawn, suppressing evening genes. As day progresses, the evening genes TOC1 and others gradually increase, eventually repressing the morning genes and setting the stage for the next cycle. These genes regulate each other in overlapping waves, creating a self-sustaining oscillation that persists even in constant darkness or constant light. The rhythm is endogenous, generated internally, not simply a reaction to external cues. This internal clock allows trees to optimize their metabolism for the daily light-dark cycle. During the day, when sunlight is abundant, trees photosynthesize at maximum capacity, producing sugars and storing them as starch in their chloroplasts. As evening approaches, the clock signals the tree to begin breaking down starch into sugars again. Throughout the night, these sugars fuel respiration and growth. The tree times its energy used so precisely that by dawn, its starch reserves are nearly depleted, ready to be replenished by a new day's photosynthesis. Plants with accurate circadian clocks grow more efficiently than those with disrupted rhythms, proving that this internal timing provides real evolutionary advantages. The clock also regulates stomata, the tiny pores on leaves that control gas exchange. Stomata open during the day to allow carbon dioxide in for photosynthesis, but opening them also allows water to escape. The tree must balance carbon gain against water loss. The circadian clock helps optimize this balance by controlling when stomata open and close, ensuring the tree maximizes photosynthesis while minimizing dehydration. Even in constant environmental conditions, the rhythm of stomatal opening continues, driven by the internal clock. Photosynthesis itself is under circadian control. Genes encoding the proteins of the photosynthetic machinery, like chlorophyll-binding proteins, follow daily rhythms of expression. The tree prepares its light-harvesting complexes before dawn, so that when the sun rises, it can immediately begin capturing photons efficiently. This preparation requires memory and prediction. The tree remembers yesterday's light pattern and predicts tomorrow's. It is a form of temporal intelligence, an ability to navigate time. The clock also coordinates flowering. Many trees are sensitive to day length, using it as a cue for when to bloom. The circadian clock measures the duration of light and dark periods, integrating this information over days and weeks. When day length reaches a critical threshold, the clock triggers the expression of flowering genes. This ensures that flowers open when pollinators are active and conditions are favorable for seed development. Cherry trees bloom in spring, timed to the lengthening days. The precision of this timing is remarkable, often varying by only a few days from year to year in stable climates. Temperature also interacts with the circadian clock. Trees can sense temperature fluctuations as small as 4 degrees Celsius and use them as additional timing cues. Warm days and cool nights help synchronize the clock with the seasons. This temperature sensitivity allows trees to adjust their rhythms to local conditions, a crucial adaptation for species distributed across wide geographical ranges. A tree in northern Canada experiences different light and temperature patterns than one in the southern United States, but both use their circadian clocks to align their physiology with their environment. Remarkably, different parts of the tree can have slightly different circadian rhythms. The leaves may follow one rhythm, while the roots follow another, each optimized for the conditions that part of the tree experiences. Yet, these separate rhythms coordinate through signals traveling through the tree's vascular system. Sugars produced in leaves during the day flow down to roots at night. Chemical signals from roots inform leaves about soil moisture. The tree integrates information from its distributed parts into a coherent whole. This internal timing system extends across seasons. Trees in temperate climates enter dormancy in autumn, triggered by shortening day lengths detected by their circadian systems. They cease growth, drop leaves, and enter a state of metabolic quiescence. In spring, as days lengthen, the clock signals the resumption of growth. Buds swell and burst, new leaves unfurl. The tree has remembered winter and prepared for it. It has counted the passing days and calculated when it is safe to grow again. The circadian clock, then, is not merely a passive timer. It is an active intelligence that allows trees to anticipate, prepare, and optimize. It is memory of yesterday and prediction of tomorrow, encoded in loops of gene expression cycling through every cell. The tree knows what time it is, not by reading a clock, but by being a clock. But trees go beyond anticipating the daily cycle. They remember events that happened months, years, even decades ago. If you touch the leaves of a mimosa plant repeatedly, it will stop closing them in response. The plant learns that the touch is not a threat. It habituates, conserving energy by ignoring a stimulus that has proven harmless. This is learning in its most basic form, and it has been documented in multiple plant species. But trees demonstrate memory that extends far beyond this simple habituation. They remember stress. When a tree experiences drought, its physiology changes. Genes activate that produce protective compounds. Enzymes increase that scavenge damaging molecules. The tree closes its stomata more quickly to conserve water. But if the drought ends and conditions return to normal, the tree does not simply revert to its previous state. It retains a memory of the stress, written into its cells through epigenetic modifications. Epigenetics refers to changes in how genes are expressed without altering the underlying DNA sequence. In trees, stress can trigger the addition or removal of chemical tags on DNA and on the histone proteins around which DNA wraps. These modifications determine whether specific genes are accessible for activation or are packed away and silenced. A gene that was difficult to activate before a drought might carry epigenetic marks after the drought that make it easier to activate in the future. The next time the tree faces water shortage, it responds faster and more effectively because it remembers the previous episode. This stress memory has been documented in multiple tree species. Young spruce trees exposed to insect attack in autumn show enhanced defensive responses when planted in forests the following spring. The memory persists through winter dormancy. Birch trees that experience drought one year show increased tolerance to drought the next year, even if conditions are favorable in between. The epigenetic marks established during the first drought prepare the tree for subsequent stress. These memories can last for years, sometimes decades. Studies of juniper trees on the Tibetan plateau found that trees that experienced severe drought showed altered growth responses to subsequent droughts years later. The stress left an imprint detectable in the tree rings, a permanent record of the event and its effects. Trees with moderate stress and slow recovery showed increased resistance to future stress, suggesting that the memory was adaptive, improving survival. Even more remarkably, stress memory can be passed to offspring. When a parent tree experiences environmental stress, epigenetic changes can occur in reproductive tissues, in the cells that will become pollen or seeds. These modified epigenetic marks can be inherited by the next generation. The offspring of stressed trees may be better prepared to face similar stresses, even if they themselves have never experienced those conditions. This is transgenerational memory, information transmitted not through DNA sequence, but through the chemical modifications on that DNA. This phenomenon blurs the line between learned behavior and inherited trait. The memory is not genetic in the traditional sense. It can be reversed if conditions change. A tree stressed by drought might produce seeds with drought-related epigenetic marks. But if those seeds grow in a consistently wet environment for several generations, the marks may fade. The memory is flexible, adaptive, responsive to the environment across multiple generations. The implications are profound. Trees are not blank slates shaped only by slow genetic evolution. They are learning organisms that respond to experience and pass those lessons forward. A forest carries within its individuals the accumulated memory of past conditions. Old growth forests may harbour epigenetic information spanning centuries. a collective memory of droughts, storms, pest outbreaks, written into the genomes of long-lived trees. This memory manifests in physical changes as well. Trees alter their architecture in response to stress. A tree bent by prevailing winds will grow thicker wood on the stressed side, reinforcing itself against future wind. This thickening is not merely a passive response, but an active remodeling based on remembered stress. The tree predicts that the stress will recur and builds accordingly. It is planning for the future based on the past. Memory also operates on shorter timescales. Venus flytraps count the number of times their trigger hairs are touched. A single touch produces an electrical signal that fades within 20 seconds. If a second touch occurs within that window, the trap snaps shut. The plant remembers the first touch just long enough to confirm that something substantial is present. This electrical memory operates on a timescale of seconds, but it demonstrates that plants possess multiple overlapping memory systems, from seconds to decades. Trees, then, are not passive. They do not experience each day as if it were their first. They carry history, they adjust, they prepare. Memory allows them to be better tomorrow than they were yesterday. It is a form of intelligence grounded in time, in the ability to learn from experience and apply those lessons to future challenges. This brings us to a question that challenges our assumptions about intelligence itself. How does a tree make decisions without a brain? When we think of decision-making, we imagine neurons firing in networks, a central processor weighing options. But decision-making, at its essence, is the ability to integrate information from multiple sources and produce an appropriate response. Trees accomplish this without neurons, using systems that are distributed throughout their structure. Trees perceive their environment through an array of sensors. Photoreceptors in leaves detect light quality and quantity, distinguishing between red, blue, and far red wavelengths. These receptors tell the tree whether it is in sun or shade, whether it is being shaded by other plants or by objects. Mechanoreceptors in stems sense wind and touch, triggering responses that strengthen the tree's structure. Chemoreceptors detect nutrients, water, toxins, and signals from other organisms. Roots sense gravity, growing downward to anchor the tree and reach water. Each sensor provides data about conditions in that particular location. These signals must be integrated. A tree in drought needs to balance the conflicting demands of its leaves and roots. Leaves want to photosynthesize, which requires open stomata. Roots struggle to find water and cannot supply enough to replace what leaves lose. The tree must decide: close stomata to conserve water but reduce carbon gain, or keep stomata open and risk desiccation. Different parts of the tree have different priorities, and those priorities must be reconciled. This integration happens through chemical signaling. When roots sense dry soil, they produce a hormone called abscisic acid. This hormone travels up through the xylem to the leaves. When it arrives, it triggers stomatal closure. The message from the roots overrides the leaves' demand for carbon dioxide. The decision is made not in one central location, but through the coordinated response of distributed tissues. The tree's body is its mind. Electrical signals also play a role. When a leaf is damaged by an insect, an electrical impulse propagates through the plant, traveling along cell membranes. This signal is slower than animal nerve impulses, moving at millimeters per second rather than meters per second, but it serves a similar function. The electrical signal alerts distant parts of the plant to the damage. triggering defensive responses throughout the organism. The plant coordinates its defense without a central command center. Hydraulic signals provide another communication channel. Changes in water pressure within the xylem and phloem can transmit information. When a branch is bent or wounded, the sudden change in pressure sends a signal that propagates through the vascular system. The tree responds by reinforcing tissues around the damaged area. This hydraulic signaling is fast, occurring within seconds to minutes, and allows the tree to respond quickly to mechanical stress. These three systems, chemical, electrical, and hydraulic, work together to create what some researchers call the plant nervous system. It is not centralized. There is no brain, but information flows, is processed, and produces coordinated responses. Each leaf, each root, operates with some autonomy, responding to local conditions. Yet, they share information constantly, creating a whole that is more than the sum of its parts. This distributed intelligence has advantages. If a branch is lost, the tree continues functioning. There is no single point of failure. The loss of any one part does not disable the entire organism. This resilience comes from redundancy and decentralization. Every part of the tree can sense and respond, contributing to the collective decision-making of the whole. Trees also exhibit behavioral plasticity. They adjust their growth patterns based on experience. A seedling growing in deep shade allocates more resources to stem elongation, reaching toward light. A seedling in full sun invests in leaf production, maximizing photosynthesis. These are not fixed programs, but flexible strategies that change as conditions change. The tree constantly reassesses its situation and alters its development accordingly. This plasticity extends to responses that look almost like choice. When roots encounter a pocket of nutrient-rich soil, they proliferate there, branching extensively to exploit the resource. When they encounter toxic soil, they avoid it, redirecting growth away from the danger. The root system shapes itself around the underground environment, navigating obstacles and seeking resources, much like an animal foraging for food. The question of whether trees are conscious is beyond the scope of science to answer. Consciousness, as humans experience it, likely requires structures trees do not possess. But consciousness is not the only form of intelligence. Trees demonstrate problem-solving, memory, learning, and decision-making. They process information and adapt their behavior accordingly. These capacities allow them to survive and thrive in environments that vary unpredictably across space and time. A tree is an intelligence, perhaps not like ours, but an intelligence nonetheless. It does not think in words or images. Its thoughts, if we can call them that, are encoded in chemical gradients, electrical potentials, hydraulic pressures. It experiences the world through roots and leaves, through the stretch of wind and the heat of sun. It remembers the past through marks on its DNA and adjusts its future accordingly. It is a slow intelligence, operating on timescales of seasons and years, but it is real. This intelligence is amplified when we consider forests not as collections of individuals, but as integrated systems. Stand in an old-growth forest, and you stand within a superorganism. The individual trees are components of a larger whole, connected through mycorrhizal networks, coordinating through chemical signals, responding to changes in unison. When one tree is attacked by insects, its neighbors prepare their defenses. When drought strikes, trees share water through their roots. The forest acts with a coherence that transcends individual organisms. It is a collective intelligence, distributed across hundreds of individuals, but functioning as one. This collective intelligence emerges from the connections between trees. No single tree orchestrates the forest's behavior. Each tree responds to local signals, to the chemistry of the soil beneath its roots, the volatiles in the air around its leaves, the water potential in its neighbors' tissues. These local responses, aggregated across thousands of trees, produce patterns at the scale of the entire forest. The forest self-organizes, adapting to disturbances and changes without central control. The mycorrhizal networks are the substrate of this collective mind. Information travels through these networks faster than it diffuses through soil. A distress signal from one tree can reach others within hours. Resources flow along gradients of need, pooling where they are most required. The network is both the medium of communication and a physical connection that binds trees into mutual dependence. Break the network and the forest fragments. Connectivity is crucial to the forest's resilience. This resilience is evident in how forests respond to disturbance. After a windstorm topples large trees, the remaining network helps surviving trees recover. Nutrients from the fallen trees are redistributed. Water that would have been used by the lost individuals becomes available to others. The forest heals itself, filling gaps, regrowing. The speed of recovery depends on the integrity of the underground networks. Forests with robust mycorrhizal connections bounce back faster than those where the soil has been damaged by clear-cutting or compaction. Old-growth forests possess the most complex networks. Centuries of growth have woven roots and fungi into dense, intricate webs. Ancient trees serve as anchors, hub nodes with connections to hundreds of other individuals. These forests carry deep memory, epigenetic records of centuries of change. They have weathered droughts, storms, pest outbreaks. The knowledge of how to survive these events is embedded in the forest itself, distributed across its members, and transmitted through networks that span generations. When we clear-cut a forest, we destroy more than trees. We sever the networks. We erase the memory. The soil that remains may look intact, but its living architecture is shattered. Regenerating trees must start from scratch, building new networks, relearning lessons that the old forest already knew. This is why secondary forests, even after decades, lack the diversity and complexity of old growth. The intelligence of the original forest is gone. Conservation of forests, then, is not just preservation of individual species. It is preservation of relationships, of networks, of collective intelligence. Protecting old-growth forests means protecting the accumulated knowledge they contain. These forests are libraries of environmental information, written not in books, but in roots, fungi, and epigenetic marks. To lose them is to lose irreplaceable understanding. The forests around us are thinking in their own way. They are processing information, making decisions, remembering the past, preparing for the future. They do this through mechanisms we are only beginning to comprehend. Every new study reveals more complexity, more sophistication. The intelligence of trees challenges our definitions of mind, of consciousness, of what it means to know and to think. We are part of this network too, not through mycorrhizae, but through shared air. We breathe the oxygen trees produce. We inhale their chemical signals, phytoncides that calm our nervous systems and strengthen our immune defenses. We benefit from their presence in ways we do not fully understand, connections written into our biology over millions of years of co-evolution. We are not separate from the forest. We are one part of its extended community. As you rest tonight, consider this. Beneath every forest floor is a conversation happening in slow time. Trees are sharing resources, warning of dangers, remembering storms from decades past. They are coordinating their growth, timing their flowering, adjusting to changes in climate and season. They are making decisions without brains, learning without neurons, thinking without words. The forest is alive with intelligence, a distributed mind stretched across acres of soil and sky. The trees do not need us to understand them to go on living and thinking in their ancient ways. But we need to understand them now more than ever. As climate changes and forests face unprecedented stress, the intelligence of trees becomes a matter of survival, not just for them, but for us. The decisions we make about how to treat forests, whether to preserve old growth or clear cut for timber, whether to restore degraded land or leave it barren, these decisions have consequences that ripple through networks we cannot see. The forest is teaching us. It is showing us that intelligence takes many forms, that cooperation can be as powerful as competition, that memory shapes the future. If we listen, if we pay attention to what the trees are telling us, through their networks and chemicals and growth rings, we might learn how to build more resilient communities ourselves. Human networks as interconnected and adaptive as the Wood Wide Web. This is the hidden intelligence of trees, revealed not through mysticism, but through careful observation and rigorous science. The trees are not silent. They are speaking. The forest is not empty. It is full of thought. We need only the patience to listen and the humility to learn. If you found this journey into the hidden world of trees fascinating, please consider liking this video and subscribing to Bedtime Biology. Share your thoughts in the comments below. What surprised you most about tree intelligence? Have you experienced the calming effects of forest bathing? Let's continue this conversation, and together we'll keep exploring the quiet wonders that surround us. Until next time, rest well, and may your dreams be as deep and interconnected as the roots beneath the forest floor.